Tina with Picture It Personal Finance, where I help small business owners become the CEO of their company. I have found that as I take on more jobs where I am acting as a virtual CFO for different business owners, I have realized that many times they are kind of like sort of a CEO of their company, but not really. And what I mean by that is they're really amazing at a part of their company. There is an element of their craft that they are absolutely dynamite at, and this is what has allowed them to grow to the place that they've grown and ultimately be able to afford somebody like me to act as their CFO. But when you ask them to really think strategically about their business and ask them for the vision of their company, it's very pie in the sky. There's not a lot of practical thought that's been applied to this. And so today's video is for me to send to you or to give to you a series of questions that you can ask yourself every so often. Like maybe it's every 6 months or maybe it's once a year, but at least do this once a year. Some questions that you can ask yourself to really hone a vision for the future that you want. When I am doing this for clients, whether they are business clients or personal finance clients, I do always have this notion of, okay, where do you want to end up? I use this metaphor all the time. If I live in Missouri and I want to end up in New York City, I need to know that I want to end up in New York City before I can start driving, because otherwise I might end up in Albuquerque. I need to know where I'm headed so that when I get to a crossroads, I can make the right decision to ultimately get me to the destination I want to be at. This is true for your business. This is true for your personal life. On the personal side, I have an exercise that's called the 10-year planning guide. In the 10-year planning guide, I ask a series of questions that is to help you figure out, certain aspects of your life for what it will be when you are 10 years older than you are today. So if you're 30, say, when I am 40, I am going to, and then you answer the series of questions. I feel that doing 10 years out for many businesses is very, very difficult because business evolution and entrepreneurism, there's so much of it that is kind of tied up in adaptation and flexibility. So it can be really hard to imagine what you want it to look like 10 years out, but you can absolutely think of it 3 years out. And part of the reason that I encourage people to do this every year is because you'd be surprised how much your vision will evolve and grow in just the 1 year since the last time you do this exercise. Certain elements will stay the same, but other elements will certainly change. And I'll give you an example of this. When I left corporate, I was pretty burnt out. Like I remember my husband, especially when I first started offering bookkeeping, he was like, oh my gosh, I could just see it now. You're gonna have a team of bookkeepers working for you. And I just rebelled against it. I don't know if it was post-traumatic stress from having managed for the last 12 years or what it was, but the idea of being anything above and beyond a solopreneur and freelancer was, to be honest, it was repulsive to me. I was like, absolutely not. I reject any notion of the idea. And I would write out my vision for a couple years out. And it was always more of me being a high value, high ticket coach or offering a consultant, service of some kind that was just of more value because I had proved myself in the industry and I had that much value to give. Well, here I am a few years later. And I have to be honest, I am for the first time, I think not the last time I did this exercise, but the time before that, I realized I could grow a team. Like I am ready to contemplate what that would look like. I would love to have a virtual assistant. I would love to have other bookkeepers working under me as I grow my virtual CFO offer. And that's really powerful. That means that I have sort of grown in my business to a place where now this is a vision that is within my grasp. And so if you are not doing this exercise, you won't know when you're growing to that next level until you're maybe already there and then you haven't thought too much or figured out and planned ahead how to step into that role. That is the purpose for today. It's number one, to have a destination so that when you're at a crossroads decision, it's easier for you to make the decision because you know where you want to end up. And then also for sort of like a indicator for you on your own growth so that as you work this exercise once a year or once every 6 months, you can start to see how much you have expanded in your capabilities and in your willingness to grow, which is just kind of a pretty awesome thing. Okay, so what are the questions? I'm sure you want to know. So let's dig into them. The beginning questions I'm going to ask are going to be around the business, right? Because this ultimately is for you to grow a vision for your business. And then I'm going to give you some questions on the personal side too, because For you to be the CEO, you need to be that person in all aspects of your life. The person you grow into in your business is going to be a person that also you have to take into your personal life. You're not going to shut your office door and then revert back to the person you are today. So the person you want to be in your business 3 years from now has also got to be a new person in your personal life 3 years from now. So I'm going to ask you a set of questions in both categories. And actually, if you want to pause this video, do that and grab a piece of paper and start answering these questions as we go. Like maybe pause after every single one that I ask to capture the answer and put it in a journal that's going to be accessible to you down the road so you can go back and review this and use it for your planning when you get into your 2023 goals or even when you start thinking about 2024 goals. Question number 1 is, what do you want your revenue to be in 3 years? Question number 2 is, what will your offers be and how will they look? How will you deliver them? Question number 4 is, who do you want your clients to be? How much money do they make? What kind of company do they work for? Are they also business owners? How do you want them to respond to your offers? What kind of a team do you want to run? Do you want employees? Will you have contractors? Will you be working alone? Where will you work? Will you be working in your home? Will you have an office building? Will you be working in a co-working space? What is the culture of your company 3 years from now? What is your mission and what is your vision? What publicity will your company have? Will you be acknowledged in any industry publications? Will you be on the news? What are you learning now? What is the most important thing for you to grasp at this time? And remember, you're answering this question as though it's 3 years from now. So you're not answering the question like, what is it important for you to learn in 2023? You're answering the question as in, what is it important for me to learn in 2026? And what is your self-pay? How much are you paying yourself out of your business? Okay, so those are the questions that you need to answer for the business side. Now, because you have evolved into the CEO that has very clear answers for each of those questions, and I'm sure they are stupendous, that same person in 2026 now has to go home and spend some time in your personal life. So the questions for you is, how old are you? How old are your family members? What are each of your family members up to? What are their top interests in 2026? How are you traveling? Where do you go? What does your home look like? What vehicle are you driving? What do you do for fun? Alone and with family? Who are your friends? What does your social circle look like? And lastly, what is your community involvement? All right, guys, those are a lot of questions, I know. And so be prepared. If you are watching this video in advance and then you are coming back and answering the questions later, give yourself an hour or 2 hours even to fill those all out. One of the things that's been encouraged to me by several individuals, and one of the things that I've seen several of my clients do, and I really admire it every time I see it, is giving yourself a CEO day. So literally blocking out your calendar once a month at least and saying, on this day, I am doing CEO stuff. This is a day strictly for thinking. I'm going to spend the day answering questions around what does my business need? And one of those days, and you don't have to do this vision exercise every month. You should have a CEO day every month to do the things that are very necessary for the planning and organization of your business. But at least one, every so often, one of those CEO days should include this exercise so that you are regularly specifying what your vision for the future is, for your home and for your business. And so that you, again, like I said, it's that metaphor that I use all the time so that you can arrive at the destination that you want. I guess there's one other thing I would add about that. And I said this to a client just the other day, and I kind of laughed when I thought about it, but it's so true. Sometimes you have to be on your way somewhere to realize you don't want to be there. Or sometimes you need to get there and realize, I didn't want to come here at all. In that situation, It's also really important to do the vision exercise because then you can start to reroute. So like, let's say if we're using I'm in Missouri and I want to go to New York City, and let's say you're most of the way to New York City and you realize, no, I want to go to Niagara Falls. I've always wanted to see Niagara Falls. I feel like that's more my scene and I'm going to go there. While you're doing, you might have multiple times where you've written a 3-year vision and it's looked one kind of way. Using my own example, for 2 years, my vision was that I was an advanced high ticket coach or consultant of some kind. And only just now am I starting to introduce the idea of growing a team. And maybe that's how it is for you too. Maybe you are on your way to New York City for years, and then one day you realize, nope, Niagara Falls is definitely it. That's okay. You can do that. Just make sure that you understand why you're making the change, and then start to shift your decisions accordingly so that you can try to make that transition as seamless as possible. All right, guys, I hope you all are fabulous as always. I will see you in the next video. Goodbye.